There's so many active forces right now who are actively trying to destroy everything that we stand for. I just don't think it's productive to channel all of this rage towards Taylor Swift.
We're a small group of native Swifties. I know it's tiny, but I definitely am glad we're finding each other.
So first I want to bring on Cali Wolf, it's kind of wild that this is like one of our first like virtual recording kind of interview moments, but I feel like I know you. We met first, I think it was in Washington, D.C. during the Women's March, right?
Native Nations March.
Right, which like kind of shortly followed the Women's March.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I've just been such a fan of your advocacy, your voice online, and honestly, like in the past year, the way that you've stepped up in your local community for elected office, like I just admire that so much, because so many people can wax poetic online about their takes, but what is that really doing for like our communities, you know, our literal neighbors? And I feel like you just stepped into that in such an amazing way. And yeah, I'll have you introduce yourself a bit in a moment, but I just want to just share my accolades and my admiration for you. But yeah, we get to have a fun conversation today. And with that, yeah, please introduce yourself. Where are you from? And yeah, tell us a bit about what you do.
Well, thank you, Jade, for that nice intro. It's great chatting with you, and I admire your work too. I'm Cali Wolf. I am a mom, a nurse, a wife. I am Shichangu Lakota. My family is from Rosebud, both my biological and my adoptive family. I was adopted at birth and grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, but life brought me to Denver in 2016. And it was around that time that I was first able to be involved in a Native community, because I grew up in a very small rural farm town in Illinois, and other than my dad and I didn't know any other Native people. Shortly after moving here, I got involved with Native Women's Wilderness, first as one of their ambassadors, and then in 2019, I stepped into the role of coordinating director for Native Women's Wilderness. You know, I've always been very civically engaged and involved, and, you know, always voting and educating myself, but obviously 2016 is when things really escalated, both in our real communities and online, and I felt like I needed to be doing more and paying more attention. So I got involved with different advocacy organizations, started doing some volunteering around elections, like postcards, quickly evolved into the last election, more hands-on work, canvassing and lit dropping and campaigning for candidates that I felt strongly about. And as of 2025, I was elected to serve on the Highlands Ranch Metro District Board of Directors. It's like a quasi city council. Highlands Ranch is a community of 103,000 people, but we are unincorporated. So we're governed by a board of directors and a general manager instead of a city council and a mayor.
So interesting, and such a good like reminder that, you know, the way that cities have grown, that there's all these different structures. Like you have, of course, your state governing body, you have your, like you said, your mayors, your city councils, but in places like Denver, where there's like a ton of sprawl, you have to have, and other communities evolving and emerging, you have to have other structures of governance, essentially. And that's where you are one of the first natives in Colorado to hold a role like this.
Yeah, currently there's 3 elected Native people in Colorado. There's somebody on the school board and then a city council and then myself.
Amazing. Well, even though you are literally in the trenches right now on the like most, local level possible. We're here to talk about something a little fun, a little lighthearted. I think we all need a break or a zoom out or what have you from just the onslaught of bad news that's always
Yeah.
coming our way and infiltrating our phones every moment of every day. So, we're gonna have a little chat about the recent release of Taylor Swift's latest album, The Life of a Showgirl. So, I want to start with the basics, and really that is, how much of a Swiftie are you, Callie? I'm curious, like, have you seen her live? Like, when did it start? Tell us about that journey.
So I would consider myself like a baby or a toddler Swiftie.
I love
I
it.
grew up listening to her music. I think her first album was released when I was in high school. Throughout college, I remember her songs. I was actually on a Filipino dance team in college, and it was like a hip hop style dance team, but we performed a routine to Love Story. So I feel like, there was bits and pieces of Taylor Swift like woven throughout my young adulthood. But I never really bought the albums. I didn't really dive in further than what was played on the radio. I remember when Reputation was released, everyone had strong opinions about that, about her jumping into a different genre. But I felt it was pretty brave of her to be standing up for herself. And I found that to be kind of relatable to certain things that I had experienced in my life. But it wasn't until, honestly, watching The Summer I Turned Pretty when I started hearing different songs of hers that are not played on the radio. And I deeply connected to those as well. My mom died from cancer in 2019, and there were songs that people would send me that I felt related to what I was going through. Soon You'll Get Better, which is from her Lover album, and then Bigger Than the Whole Sky. That one was really moving for me because there's parts of the song where she says, like, did some bigger force take you because I didn't pray? And I was raised Lutheran. When I moved to Colorado in 2016, that put a huge fracture in like my religious identity. And I was deconstructing from that. So when my mom went through something so tremendous, when I was unsteady in my spiritual life, it felt like, did I not pray enough? Like, did I do something that caused this? So I really related to those lyrics. But yeah, once I started watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, it exposed me to songs that I hadn't heard on the radio. And I fully stand by the claim that the songs that are not on the radio are her best songs.
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing that context with, just watching that show and how it, was maybe a mirror towards your own life at a point in time. And I just really am grateful for hearing that context because, you and I are online friends and we navigate work spaces together, but I didn't know that about you. And so it's just really beautiful to hear about that. And also thanks for tying in like The Summer I Turned Pretty. I feel like we need a whole other like debrief on that because that is like a phenomenon that I was just introduced to this past summer, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot to say about that.
Yes, there is. I feel like just her songs with that storyline and those actors all together just made it like very impactful, emotional, reminded me of things that I've experienced in my life, and it just felt very relatable.
I have a theory that she is like an anonymous executive producer on that show.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, well, now that we have that context, let's get into the album that just came out, The Life of a Showgirl. Did you like this album? And let's answer that from like a purely musical perspective. We'll get into all of this social commentary that's been circulating and emerging about this album in a bit, but purely from like, is this a bop? Is it a flop? What do you think?
So the first time I listened to it, I had already kind of read the lyrics for all the songs, which that's like one of the only ways I can really connect with music, is I'm a visual learner. I need to see the words. And then I listened through the first time. I did not really feel anything. I just was like, oh.
Relatable. So
yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah. And then I listened to it again and I identified songs that I'm like, I think these would be like, you know, the songs that I like. The Fate of Ophelia and Elizabeth Taylor stood out to me. But then I just couldn't stop listening. And now I'm like, these songs are so good. I don't know what it is the first time you listen, and then you just can't stop. So I will say that I do like this album from a musical standpoint now. My first impression was not that favorable, but we've evolved.
I agree. My group chats that day were like, we hate it. What is this? And no digs to like, it was still like a lovingly like, yeah, not for us kind of critique or piece of feedback. But over time, like in like a week, everyone started to change their minds and they're like, actually, Fate of Ophelia, Father Figure.
Yes.
Various songs were like, actually, we get it now. We've like put things together. And for whatever reason, now we're into it.
Yeah. And I didn't go see the movie. I was traveling that weekend. I probably would have, just because I love learning the backstory of all of her work. And that
there's so many pieces. Like, we got to give her credit. Like, she does think things through in such a way.
Yeah, it's beyond storytelling. So I do appreciate that. I connect to music more when I have that context. But I think I also just sort of, I don't want to say relate to her sad music more, but I think I just tend to gravitate towards music when it's relatable in those sadder experiences of my life, and less when it's reflective of like happy experiences in my life. So I think I'm just like a sad emo music girl.
I think that's a whole, like, actually that's a big lesson, I think, in this whole cultural moment, is that there's, I don't know if you've dived as deep as I have into the like TikTok commentary of it all, but it is so divisive and people are being so cutthroat about it. And I'm just like, can we just like, did we forget that we can just like agree to disagree?
Yes.
And I'm just like, you can just not like it and move on. You don't have to come up. So that's actually a good segue. There are so many takes on this album, from like the Charlie XCX commentary to the conspiracies that Taylor is now MAGA, or like even worse, like people have gone really off the edge or the deep end or whatever they call it, that, you know, she's now far right because she's singing about wanting a family, or like maybe she's like found, you know, she's clearly found her person and she wants that. She's been wanting that, but people are, and I will call it out, like people, especially on like the left, are really deeming that as unacceptable. And, you know, yeah, like I said, putting her in a category of now she's MAGA, now she's far right. Are you buying any of these opinions, or what's your take on it all?
So the Charlie XCX, I don't have like an opinion on that. You know, the song that they suspect Charlie released about Taylor was not insulting, I didn't feel. I mean, I haven't like spent much time dissecting that, but it seemed more of like a reflection of Charlie and her insecurities than who Taylor is as a person. So I would be surprised if that was Taylor releasing this song in response to that. But the stuff about her being MAGA or far right is just so extreme and absurd. And The right doesn't own family. They don't own marriage. They don't own having kids. And I feel like we're just at a time in society where we're trying to like have our gotcha moment and find something to invalidate anyone. There's valid criticisms of Taylor. She is a billionaire. A lot of people, myself included, think that there's no ethical billionaire. That being said, I don't see all billionaires in the same light. You have Jake Pritzker, who's a billionaire. He's the governor of Illinois, my home state, who is actively fighting fascism every single day. However, how he earned his billions, I would say, is more unethical than how Taylor did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have Elon Musk, who's approaching, I think, trillionaire. So I don't view them all in the same light. I just don't think anyone should have $1 billion.
I mean, it's becoming normalized, I feel like, in this moment in time. But I agree. I want to just pause on what you said about, like, she's earned her billions through her own creativity and through her own, of course, like a lot of consumption, a lot of, capitalism, perpetuation of capitalism. But it's not like, like you said, other billionaires who have owned it through, the oppression of others, or, stealing of land and resources, what have you. Of course, yeah, there's obviously policies that should be in place to manage how billionaires may exist, or how they, like, what their role is in sharing their resources. But we're obviously in a backsliding moment when it comes to that. But eventually, I hope we will get there. I believe we will get there. But in the meantime, can we not, like, it's just so weird for a lot of people who maybe tout themselves as feminists are bashing this person who, I feel pretty, like I said, I'm, not the biggest, like, Swiftie on the planet, but I can recognize that she is successful off of her own work. And again, back to, like, the family thing, she is now choosing her own path, and I think has been for quite a while. And I also love earlier this year that she used, her wealth to buy her own music and intellectual property back, which I think is a huge win for anyone, let alone a woman in her particular industry. And so I agree with you. I'm just like, I'm seeing a lot of this critique online, especially in TikTok or various places on the internet, and I'm just like, wow. We are really, this is why we are just having the problem. This is a microcosm of, like, the bigger lefty problem of, like, eating our own.
I agree. It is probably likely that some of this was manufactured and could be bot driven, but I've seen people that I know perpetuating it and taking it and running with it. And
right. There is that piece, like, the algorithms just reward this kind of content and these kind of perspectives. So absolutely, I feel like that's a 100% that is happening, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, people have every right to make some of these criticisms about her work. I think what struck a chord in me was that it was then being used to kind of invalidate other people on the left who are, doing the work. I saw a couple other people who were just posting their favorite songs, or that they were excited about listening to the album, and people sliding into their DMs and telling them they shouldn't be supporting her, they shouldn't be supporting a billionaire, and having that happen to me too. It just seemed like people were just trying to drag down any ounce of joy you could have.
Yes, I'm really glad you brought this up, because you shared some stories that I really loved. You said exactly that, like, people who are hating on this album are now coming after people who enjoy it,
Mhm.
and how those people are like they're just regular people, and some of them are really good people who have progressive values and are just like you. Like, can you get into that more and say more about that? And also just how the left is sadly, has more and more becoming, and this is a moment of them showing us this, but we're like the party or the movement that just doesn't let us have fun. It doesn't let us have nice things.
Yeah, I saw somebody share something on Threads yesterday or the day before that really resonated with me, and it was about how if you're waiting for the perfect ally to your cause, you're never going to find that. If you require that your ally, your community doesn't shop at Target or doesn't have a Disney Plus subscription or doesn't listen to Taylor Swift, you're never going to get people to come in and join you. And that politics is about addition and not subtraction. And that resonates deeply with me. I mean, I live in a very red area of Colorado. I would say where I'm immediately at is more purple, but I don't have the option of having someone shunned just for potentially listening to someone who might be conservative. Like, that doesn't work in the real world. That doesn't work outside of an echo chamber online. That's not how you get people to come in and join your cause. That's not how you change minds. And I don't think that some of the criticism around Taylor Swift is going to change people's minds either. It's going to push them further away because they feel like they can't do anything right. And, I have conservatives in my immediate community who voted for me. I am not in a position or a belief that we need to have this checklist of who we allow near us and that they have to meet all of the boxes. There are obviously certain things that are a red line. Those things are pretty obvious, like racism and homophobia and all of those things, but it's just complicated. It's complex. I've reflected a lot over the past year about what is working, what isn't working. I'm more of a pragmatic advocate, I guess. So I try to look at things in a more practical way of how is this going to bring more people closer. And over the past year, I would agree with you, like the left, we have been kind of eating our young or eating our own. And, I've faced some valid criticism from the left. I've faced criticism that I would say was not warranted. Meanwhile, the conservatives that follow me don't ever come at me that way.
It's just, you think we would have learned our lesson. We're like nearing a year out from the election, last year's election. And I feel like both of us were like highly on the spectrum of like, this is not like a moment where we have the luxury of like dissecting like how pure a candidate is or is not. We have to make strategic decisions, and unfortunately, things went the way they did. But there were a ton of lessons to learn from last year about just like, oh man, we are not the open, welcoming movement that we may think we are. In fact, we're kind of becoming the thing that like maybe we fear. We're always policing each other. We're always like trying to, out like righteous one another. And I really thought that maybe a year out we would have a better we would have learned some lessons, and we would do that less, especially online. I think it's just so funny how we do this to each other on platforms that ultimately the wrong billionaires benefit from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we will find our way out of the spiral that we're in. But I do want to ask you this question because you're a woman in leadership. You have power now. You're an elected official, and as we know, women who are in places of power or decision-making power face way more scrutiny than men. And it seems like, considering Taylor Swift and how undoubtedly she is one of the most successful people on the planet ever, maybe, she still faces this like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of treatment, and she can't win. Like we're seeing that play out with this album, right? And that's because of the insane double standards that exist for women. So can you talk about how you've seen that play out, since the release of this album, maybe your commentary on that and how it's ridiculous that this is happening to this person, but also your own experience with that?
I think in the time that we're in right now, with so many of the atrocities happening in the world, I think a lot of people are disappointed that, historically Taylor has spoken up and now she's opting not to. And that is, that is upsetting to me as well. I'm not like sitting here happy that she hasn't used her power. I also recognize that she needs bulletproof glass to go to a football game and that one of her venues overseas was targeted for a terrorist attack. And I can't begin to imagine what that level of fame does to your sense of safety and security. So while I can sit here and say, if that were me, I would do X, Y, and Z, you don't really know until you're there. And then, coming back to being like an elected official and facing higher scrutiny for that too, that's complex. And I feel like I've experienced that in a couple different ways over the year, one of which relates to being a mother and being involved in public life. And there's some people who think that young mothers specifically have more important jobs to do than be in public office or like have a civic duty in whatever way they choose to. And then there's people who I relate to more where because I'm a mother, that's why I'm doing this. Because I've had kids, I feel this strong desire to kind of change and shape the way the community and the world is as they grow up. And I don't know how else to do that without jumping in. And then this past year, there's been, threats of safety and attacks against legislators in Minnesota that resulted in, our state taking protective measures to allow lawmakers and legislators to retract their, public addresses. So I think there's so many different layers when it comes to being somebody that is a little bit more out there publicly, and specifically in regards to being a woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I super resonate with that. And I was just listening to like the most recent episode of Call Her Daddy with Kim Kardashian, and even just the level of like security that people are needing, no matter what level they are on, whether they're like yourself, like as local elected official, or someone like Kim. Like security is now becoming such a concern, and it'd be great if we could just offer a little grace to especially the people like Taylor who have like shown us time and time again. I think that that's what's feeling so weird about all the conspiracies that are emerging. Like this person has shown us over and over that she's progressive. Like Taylor Swift, she has gotten behind every Democrat that's ran for president. She's literally said in her one and only documentary that, she was very much anti the person who is now leading this country. And it's just it's so interesting. And I did see this one take around the all the conspiracy around Taylor about how the way in which people are trying to manipulate her words, her lyrics, as though she's now MAGA or a far right, whatever. It actually reflects on how much our media literacy has gone down, because we can't just like read something and be like, oh yeah, this is quite literal.
Yeah.
We don't actually have to create like wild narratives about it. And maybe folks are just doing it for the algorithm, but I think that that's a whole like connection in itself. The way that the algorithm is like making us less media or social media literate, and we're now creating our own conspiracies to then fulfill the algorithm. You know what I mean? It's like this creepy cycle.
Yeah, like it reminds me of the boomers who are like posting on Facebook, like, if you don't repost this, then, X, Y, and Z will happen, or whatnot. Like, I feel like
that is such
millennials,
a boomer trend.
Gen X, and like Gen Z were falling for these divisive like posts online where we don't even really know who's behind it. And then it kind of gets this like group mentality of like, well, now everyone's thinking that, and we're just gonna, make this our definitive stance. There's very little room for nuance. And I did see something that I related to as well. Like, maybe we don't have to, maybe there could be multiple things that are true. Like, we're never going to really know what she meant in some of her lyrics other than herself. And so maybe multiple things can be true. I think we're always searching for the moment where like we are right and our opinion and our stance is right, but it's not always that way.
I do appreciate the trend, or the like now kind of Gen Z saying of like, it's just not that deep.
Yeah.
I'm just like, can we just lean into that a little bit? Like,
yeah,
I think she's just having a blast. She's obviously like feeling some type of way to like, put out a song like Would. She's just like on one. And I'm like, okay, like, you do that. That's great for you. Happy for you.
Yeah, there's so many active forces right now who are actively trying to destroy everything that we stand for. I just don't think it's productive to channel all of this rage towards Taylor Swift.
1000%. Well, on the topic of it's not that deep, let's move into these final little rapid fire questions. So I'm just going to ask you Swiftie themed questions, and answer as quickly as possible. Don't overthink it. Yeah, this is a little Taylor Swift game called Are You Ready for It? See what I did there. All right. Okay. So what era of your life are you in right now? Is it, and it has like, make it work with the theme of one of her albums. Is it Red, Reputation, Evermore?
We'll go with Lover.
Lover. Okay. I kind of want to know why. I know these are supposed to be rapid fire, but I'm like, okay, say more.
It's just like one of the songs really relates to like a happy relationship, and I feel that way now. Like I am married, I am happy. We're going on a date tonight, I can't wait. But also the man is in that song, and I just feel that to my core. Like, have you heard the song The Man?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Kamala like had it on at her first debate, I think, or her first rally. It's just, I feel like every day I'm looking at the reflection of like, this would be okay for a man, or if I were a man, I would have more money or more whatever, especially in an era where we just found out our wage gap is the lowest it's been since, I don't know, the 60s or 70s. So this feels relatable to me.
What's one, you kind of answered this already, but maybe let's make it from this album. What's one song that from this album that's made you feel seen, or made you, doesn't have to be made feel seen. It just, what's your favorite song from the album?
That's a good question. I don't know that I really feel super relatable to any of the songs, but I do like Wish List. I know that's a highly criticized one because she wants kids and a family, but
no, No, I love that response because I'm like, it's not a bad thing to like get the things that
Yeah.
you've been wanting.
Yeah. And I'm
And
like,
she's been so clear about it for literal decades.
yeah.
And
And
it's
as
just
someone who
like,
had kids that came out looking very much like my husband, I'm like, yeah, that's relatable. Got the whole
oh my
block looking
God.
like you.
People thought that that was definitely like a racist um thing to say or sing about, but I'm like, she's not trying to like gentrify this whole neighborhood. She's
Right.
literally just talking about her kids.
If she would
playing
have
on the
said, I want
street.
to adopt a bunch of kids who are brown and black, that would have also been alarming for a lot of people. That would be alarming for me.
Like I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Okay, if Taylor agreed to do a lie detector test on an interview with you, what would you ask her?
It's a good question. I don't know that there's anything I'm dying to know about her. I mean, I would ask, why haven't you said anything about what's been going on in the world? I would love to know the answer to that, and if she was being truthful in it.
The response to that, honestly, is that she's like deeply plotting.
I agree.
She's like deeply plotting the takedown of you know who. Final question. If Taylor ever did a show for Indian country, where and when should it be?
Another one
Got to
is
bring our people back somehow
Yeah.
this.
I'm going to say Denver March Powwow because it's so close to me, and it's now, I think it's maybe the biggest in the country with Gathering of Nations being done.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like somewhere in the Southwest would also be pretty and beautiful. Like have an outdoor.
It very much be on brand with Life of a Showgirl.
Yes.
All the orange
Yes.
landscape.
And, yeah, orange and turquoise.
Oh my God. You're
Yes.
right.
The album is
Okay.
very Danae coded.
I did not even put that together, but thank you. Thank you. Now I'm gonna have to sit with that and I don't know, plot something, I guess. Well, thanks so much, Callie. I know that there are so many other things we could talk about, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, but this I think is just something we needed to see out there. I had seen no Indigenous takes on the album and or Taylor Swift, like kind of in general. So this has been, I guess you could say, like a dream come true, and that I'm like, okay, finally we have these perspectives. But thank you so much, and as always, just really appreciate, really value your opinion, your perspective.
Thank you for the opportunity. I loved getting to chat about you I feel like this tied in some of the important work and the joy that we have.
It's all connected. Yeah. It's all connected. So for our next interview, I would like to introduce our guest, Jen Harper, who is an Anishinaabe icon, originally from Thunder Bay, Ontario, and founder of Cheekbone Beauty. Jen's work as CEO is rooted in creating makeup that is sustainable, carrying forward representation, and giving back to community members. Jen has accolades from winning a Sustainability Excellence Award in 2024 to features in Allure magazine, Vogue, and most importantly, being the first Indigenous cosmetic company in Canada. Jen is truly that Indigenous baddie running a beauty empire. And we are just so happy to have you here, Jen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you.
We're here to talk about the life of a showgirl.
Oh my goodness.
And I obviously follow you and Cheekbone. I've followed Cheekbone for years. And I saw you all come out with the product, kind of like giving kudos to this moment, this pop culture moment. And I thought it was so cute and just like well done for your marketing team. Like they were on point with it. And so yeah, that just really sparked this idea, because after the album came out, I was like, where is the indigenous hot takes on this? There's like no one talking about this from our communities. So it
We're a
just
small
felt
group of native Swifties. I know it's tiny, but I definitely am glad we're finding each other.
same. Very much. Yeah, I feel the same way. Well, let's start there with the basics. How much of a Swiftie are you? Did you go to the Eras tour? Have you seen her live? Tell us about your
Okay.
Swiftie journey.
So I am definitely of an older generation than yourself, but I have a daughter who our first Taylor Swift show was the Red Tour. So
Mm.
my daughter was just turning 8 that year, and that was the first Taylor Swift experience, and I fell in love and I still love the Red album. It is up there with one of my favorites. And then of course, she is a massive, or I feel like she's calming down in her older years because she'll be 20 in December, but she has been a hardcore Swiftie her whole life. And it's something that's connected her and I as mom daughter. My husband is what's the word? I always feel like there was this group of kids in school that were the cool kids that never kind of listened to pop music. And it was all like indie, or like I grew up in the 90s, so like grunge and these obscure bands, but I am a through and through pop girly from the beginning. I was a huge like Michael Jackson fan since I was a little girl, Madonna, like all of the
Mhm.
if you're a pop icon, I am a fan, and I've always been. And I've in my teen years I was almost kind of ashamed of that, and so I hid it a little bit because of my friend group. It was all about grunge music and like up and coming and things, obscure things people no one had ever heard of. And
It
then I was like,
wasn't
I
edgy
don't
enough.
love that. I am a pop person for sure. And then
Hmm.
have learned, though, I absolutely do love all genres, because to me any live music is entertaining, it's fun, it's an experience. So but I'm definitely have become a Swiftie by way of my daughter, but then now I have my own favorites and my own Swiftie experience. And I think it started with definitely the Eras tour, because that kind of blew everything up because it was everything felt so hard to get all of a sudden. And so I think
Hmm.
FOMO, just as humans, we're naturally drawn to things that feel harder. And so I had gone to the first show with her, which was Eras. Then it was 1989, I think, and then Reputation. And then we
Right.
had tickets to Lover, but that was only 4 shows, and these or sorry 4 different cities that were doing like 5 shows, and we had tickets to Boston, and then the pandemic happened. And so what
Oh,
happened,
wow.
that put us in the queue for when Eras tour happened. So we did get in the early queue because of having those Lover tickets that had to be returned to everyone. And we went and saw it in Newark. We saw it there. And then again, gratefully, my daughter's really good friend wanted my husband's kind of really handy on the Ticketmaster scene. So when you get a code, he knows how to work it so that you're ensure you
Oh,
get tickets.
nice.
So he helped my daughter's friend because she got a code when they came to Toronto. So the second part of the Eras tour, when they added the next album. So I've been to the Eras tour twice. So I feel really
Ooh.
privileged because I got the first version, and then I got the second version when the other
Oh,
album was added. Yeah.
tortured poets,
Poets.
right? Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
And that happened so we got to go see it in Toronto where we do live. Yeah. So it's been fun, super exciting
Yeah.
journey. And I love the new album, of course. I'm a big fan. My daughter was explaining to me all the different reviews and what people are thinking, but I think it just goes like, it's just super poppy and energetic, and it's just fun. And I feel like we need fun right now in the world.
Yeah. Well, that is really my next question, but before we get there, I just have to say I totally relate to you. I've always had yeah, like a little affinity for just pop music, pop culture. I think it's really impressive what some of these artists, entertainers are able to do. And I just feel compelled to share my little intro into the Taylor world. What is it
Yeah.
called? The Taylor Nation.
Yes.
So I had just quit my job. This is 2023, going into 2024. And I took myself on a little vacation to Japan. And I was in Tokyo on my phone one morning and I was like, oh my God, the Eras Tour is happening here on the next night, tonight and the next night in Tokyo. And this was the show that it was like all in the media because it was the show that she had to do and then literally like turn around and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was all over the internet, critiques and also how is she going to do it? But in that moment, I was like, you know what? I want to kind of see what all the hype is about. I'm going to go. So in this very impromptu way, I went. It was at Tokyo Dome, and again, I wasn't like the biggest Swiftie or Taylor Swift fan. I'd known a couple songs. I like her music to work out to be quite
Mm-hmm.
honest. But that was really my only relationship to it. And then I went to the show, and Tokyo Dome, it's massive.
Like how
And
many people?
oh
Do you
my
know?
God, I want like tens of thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
huge. And, I think also the kind of fandom that exists in Japan is way more like expressive and exuberant
Oh,
than
yeah.
maybe here in the US. They're just like so much more like people were crying. People were literally like crying and like reaching for her, and it was just so I was just like, "Oh my God, it's clicking now." Like this woman is like she's a global pop icon. Like it just clicked for me in that moment, being there and seeing so many people. Of course there were people from the US there. You could tell.
Mm-hmm.
You could
Mm-hmm.
tell who was from the US, or from North America. And then like the rest were Japanese people, I'm assuming. And I'm assuming also that maybe some of them are bilingual, but maybe some of them aren't. And everyone knew every single word. And so it was just like,
In English too, right?
yeah, in
Yeah.
English.
That
And I was just
fascinates
like,
me.
oh my God, like this is incredible what she's done and what she's doing. So I felt compelled to share that story, but agree with you that, yeah, pop music, pop culture has always been like not even a guilty pleasure. Maybe at one point, like you said, in our teens when everyone was like too cool for school, but
Yeah.
it's such a good thing to like have in our lives when, especially nowadays, things are so dark and bleak.
Yeah. Like, did you not feel so because I've saw the Eras tour twice, and I have to like be completely honest, the one in the US was it felt so much better than my experience in the one in Canada. I just think
Interesting.
Canadians are kind of, what's the word? We're a lot more conservative, and they're like, the fandom wasn't there. So I'm like, now in my head, you have experienced the ultimate fandom, because I believe the Japanese people are just, when they are a fan of something, it's huge, like it's
It's
massive. And so
huge.
it
Yeah.
would be wild to see that. But just, and it was one of the first shows during the Eras tour when it started, and it was just the fans. And we had probably, quite honestly, the worst seats. We were literally, the stadium's open, and I think we're 6 rows from like touching the sky. Like that's how
Oh
far
my
up.
God.
So you could not see her, or like she was a dot, but it didn't even matter
Yeah.
because the energy from this stadium and these young people that are her fans was so impressive. My husband is 5 years older than me, and he is like a Deadhead, like loved the Grateful Dead. So like, I mean,
Love it.
that's a band from the 70s, right? So they have this massive following. If they do a show, like their fans are so loyal, but he said this was one of the most unbelievable experiences of his life, and he had no idea. And I had been explaining to him over the years, I'm like, yeah, she just puts on such an incredible show, and no matter what's happening in the world, you just feel the like love of all of these fans and how much they love her and love each other, because they have this in common, right? It's just this like kind of really interesting way that people get unified in a world of so much trauma and pain, if you will. You know what I mean? And it's just like you get to escape that for a couple hours. And I think that's so what's beautiful about live music and being a fan of something. And just watching, for me, it's really personal because I watched my daughter just be this big, huge Taylor Swift. Like in the younger years, I didn't like, she would wait for every album. She could literally tell you to this day the meaning of all of the songs and why Taylor wrote them and who they're like these Swifties are like going deep in terms of investigation and understanding what it all means. But it's like it's really interesting, and her writing is truly, even just this new album, even though it's super poppy, like if you listen to her writing, it is really really fascinating, the
Yeah.
lyrics that she comes up with.
This album, at first everyone was like too poppy, like what's happened, like, and it's just like, God forbid a girl has range, like,
Right, yeah.
like God
Or
forbid
change, I
she
feel like changing today.
yes, yes, or exploring um different themes or genres. But there's also just been some really intense critique, that she's now MAGA or conservative because she's talking about like wanting a family,
Hmm.
or she's trying to sneak like racist, messages into her music or her swag. And so I'm just curious, what's your thought on all
So I
this?
haven't heard that deeper stuff. I'm probably just seeing the clickbait of the MAGA, maybe, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I think I asked my daughter about that, and she's like, Mom, she's just going to get the heat. And she's
Mm.
been really, over the years, has expressed herself and not let sort of like any of it be. Like, she's just like, I'm going to be myself, and that's who I'm going to be. So I don't know enough of it to like, I guess, have any feelings on it. But I feel like too, it's like no matter who you are, if you're in the public eye and have such a big platform, like people who I was a fan of have, stories have come back that they're technically they're doing this, and all I ever say is, well, I need like the actual evidence of something really bad
Mhm.
happening, right? Like I can't listen to something if there's no actual evidence, if it's speculation or conspiracy
Yes.
theorist, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's a conspiracy theory, that is not truth. I need truth to be there by way of actual evidence, right? Like I feel like that's where I come from. And then it's funny. It's, Cheekbone is my brand, but then people have been like, I'm not following you anymore because you like Taylor Swift. Right. So that does
Oh my
happen.
God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And like you're native. Dare you be a Swiftie or a Taylor? Like, yeah. Yeah. So it's like these people have real feelings, which we're all entitled to. And when it comes to information, if someone's truly not a good person or has done something really bad, I am of the ilk where I need to have actual information that that is in fact true, or I don't just believe everything everyone says. I am not a person who just follows the pack. I need to
Mhm.
hear all the sets of data and information. And quite honestly, it's been uncomfortable in the sense that there's been other, and this is outside the world of a pop icon, there's been things that have happened um, across Indian country in different communities that unfortunately people will bring us that information into our DMs
Mm.
and be like, you shouldn't have used this model that you used 5 years ago because this is what happened. And at the end of the day, if it was like a serious issue, a crime was committed, perhaps we would take this more seriously. But if you can't show us any evidence, and we're not even going to question those things, like you have to come forward and really show us something horribly awful is, and it's true that that happened. It's really difficult for a brand. Like, we're a brand. We're like, I'm
Right.
Jen Harper, and Cheekbone is its own entity, and sort of it makes its own decisions over here. Obviously, reflection of who Jen Harper is, because I founded it and I still get to be a big part of the company. But in itself, that's its own thing. And it's I just find it very interesting that there's like this hard press of like, people will toss us so much information, and I was like, this is none of my business or our business as a team, because I'm not the one technically that would read everything either, right? So yeah, you would have no idea the kind of insights people are sending us in the DMs, where you're like, whoa, this is like TMI, too much information. And I'm as much as I am a massive empath, and truly feel heartbroken for many circumstances that have happened to many people, and would not want anything bad to happen to anyone. It's just like, there's things that like, we're like, what do you do? How do you go? Yeah. But you know what? People are hurt and they're looking for comfort and support. And they want to be heard and they want to feel seen. So I get why the internet
Yeah.
feels like this place where you could possibly go divulge all kind of information. But I'm always saying to my own children and the next generation, we really have to be very careful about who we share specific information with. But yeah, it's a crazy place, owning a business, and those are things in those early days, Jade, that I would have never imagined would have to be part of the conversation that I have with the team. Like, yeah, we're not engaging with that kind of information on the internet or something. But so to take a deep dive and to try to go into a pop star's life and say what they do or feel, that would be really hard to do. So at
Right.
this point, I'm like, I will enjoy the music. If it ever happened that, of course, in my personal opinion, and this is like, I would, of course, not want to follow anyone that if I ever heard that they were doing something that really went against my values or principles, right?
Right, absolutely. And I just got to say, I think all of this just says, Jen, that you're a critical thinker, and we need way more of those in this world. People who really, don't buy every video or meme they see on the internet. I think that this moment, even if it is about something as silly as Taylor Swift and her new album, like the lengths at which people are grasping for conspiracy or meaning that just has no like base in truth, is such a microcosm. I mean, it feels like a macrocosm because it's like a lot of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And the Swifty world is so big, but it is a microcosm of these bigger issues that are happening across our societies. And because the internet really rewards people who have inflammatory things to say.
Yes. Which is, I feel like that's a meta, and that's a TikTok, and that's a platform issue. And what here's the truth, like, talk about nefarious. They are playing into a human desire, which this is like a human weakness, our desire to see something negative versus something positive.
Mm-hmm.
Is It's horribly unbalanced right now, and these platforms are like, that's, we know that's what the algorithm is paying attention to, and the algorithm just doesn't even care, honestly, if it's good or bad. It's whatever's getting the most attention, and our weakness as human beings to look for bad sometimes makes that even more challenging for us.
You touched on something that I want to loop back to, which is this kind of, there's the expectation we put on whether it's a person like Taylor Swift, a pop star like Taylor Swift, or a brand like yours, is just a little wild. I think it's a little wild that like absolute strangers to, whether it's your brand or whether it's this, pop star, like just feel entitled to either like share things or have expectations for you. So much like Taylor, you're an entrepreneur. And as we know, women who own businesses or who are entrepreneurs or in the spotlight face way more scrutiny than men. And it seems like even though Taylor is undoubtedly one of the most successful people like on planet Earth, she still faces this like damned if you do, damned if you don't treatment. And she can't win because of these insane double standards that exist in our society for women. So my question is, can you talk about how you've seen that play out either for her or in your own experience?
Yeah. I mean, it's the truth. And I mean, I feel like men are probably also facing this. If you put yourself out there, you're going to be scrutinized, but
Mm-hmm.
in a very different way than perhaps a woman is, right? Like if you choose to have a family, it was always then if you worked, you weren't a great mom. Like, and people really like they believe that. These are belief systems. So it's really it's going to be on the person who, if we're choosing to put ourselves out there, you really, I talk about my personal healing journey. And if I didn't take the steps every day to work on myself, then being in sort of an area where someone could criticize or scrutinize the way you're doing something could be really, really challenging. One of the most recent pieces of advice when I get asked what you would you tell your younger self, and I believe this it's easy to say but doesn't happen easily. But when you're younger, stop worrying about what everyone thinks, because at the end of the day, like, you're never going to make everyone happy. Like, we live in a world of so many different perspectives and so many different likes and dislikes, and so there's no way we're going to make everyone happy. And I think it's just feeling super comfortable in your own skin first. And unfortunately, I know it took me a long time to get there where I'm comfortable with who I am,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing too with age and maturity that, there's so many things I don't know anything about. And so that comes with this really deep thread of humility and understanding. But then also, like, I'm learning still. I'm a human. I'm going to learn. I'm going to fall. I'm going to make mistakes. And
Mm-hmm.
then maybe once in a while I get something right. And then, but it's like that understanding of like, that's who I am. And it's surely going to upset somebody along the way. But how much I let that hurt me is really up to me, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
is it my family? Is it my people that I work with? Who is it really does matter? Because if it's just a stranger on the internet, as much as I really do believe and I want to be this person in the world who cares deeply about every human being, because I believe we deserve that. I think the world is lacking love in so many ways and I want to care. But if it's someone's just coming at me negatively and I can feel there's no love for me in return in the words or how they're saying it, doesn't mean I don't love them and care what happens to them. But I'm also going to take everything they say with a grain of salt and not, if it was somebody super important in my life, I'm going to take time and listen. And then, to be truthful, our customers at Cheapbone Beauty, I listen to them all of the time. So if they came to me with something and they're the ones that purchase our products, because we have a plethora of people that love to tell us all the things we're doing wrong, and then we like, you've never bought one thing from us, so how do you know what we're doing over here, right? So, but if
Yep.
you are a cheekbone warrior, you're in our customer world and you have something to say, yeah, they fall into that group of people that I really do love deeply and want to hear from them of how we can do better or where we did something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, like you said, it's easier said than done to like practice that and embody that, but it is a life lesson. And I agree with you. Like, I think in my 20s, I was way more concerned about external, you know, what was being or how I was being interpreted externally. And as I've gotten older, I feel like there's maybe like a very tight knit circle of people who, if they say I'm doing something wrong, then their opinions matter most. But yeah, everyone else who I don't know or trust, like you said, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's taken with a grain of salt.
And truly, like, do they even have enough information? Like, none of us
Oh
do,
yeah.
right? Like, how many times am I doom scrolling and you see something and you get trapped in the comments, so you're looking at it, and I immediately pause and I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. I don't even like, it's just because obviously the algorithm has fed it to me some kind of drama is happening, and it's just like I don't even have enough information to even form an actual opinion about that. Like, that's the truth, right? Like, I really
Yeah.
so, and we know this like little speck of someone's actual entire life, their circumstances or environment. Like, I really do fully understand and believe that we are all products of that. And, one thing I've learned is, so many of us, our behaviors, our character traits, even how we speak, like that stems from our childhood in so many cases. And when I am meeting someone, I recognize that now, and I'm just like, okay, this is now when you want to get to know someone further and be like, oh, this is why. It's like you learn, oh, this is why they do this that way, right? Or whether it's a cultural thing, but it's like that's where you just get this deeper understanding of our fellow humans. And there's no way online that you could honestly, especially if you're just like whipping by. And I feel like the comment section, I picture it as like we're walking down a busy main street of any given town, whether it's like New York City to middle America, and you would be walking by a store or somebody and just shouting something out and leaving your opinion. Like, we would just never behave like that in real life, but for some reason on social media, this is what we've all succumbed to.
I know, it's so silly. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you can also like, you can not like this music, you cannot like this person, and you can move on, and
Totally. Yeah.
you can put your your knee jerk or your need to critique on something that actually matters. Like, I don't know, maybe like our authoritarian government here in the US or something. So I'm
Put
like,
the energy to something good.
bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to close out with a little rapid fire Taylor Swift
okay.
themed game. So I'm going to ask you some Swiftie themed questions and answer as quickly as you can. What era of your life are you in right now? Red, Reputation, Evermore,
Yeah.
Life of a Showgirl.
I feel like I'm in my Life of a Showgirl era right now.
Yes. Say more. I want to hear
Yeah.
about that.
I just feel so very interesting. Cheekbone will turn 9 in November next month, and
Oh,
it'll be
congrats.
it turns 9, but it'll be in January 11 years since I had the dream and started working on it. So I feel like I've been doing
Wow.
this so long now, but I feel like we're just getting started, and all of the years of like, you know, l- sort of relating this to Life of a Showgirl, of showing up at the event and like just putting on the show and doing all the things that you have to do. It kind of then gets you to this place where you finally feel like you belong. The truth is, I really hadn't felt like I belonged in the beauty industry, as odd as that may sound, for maybe the first 6 years. And it's over the last like solid 3, 4 where I'm like, no, we belong here. This brand belongs here. Indigenous beauty belongs in the world. And that's where I feel like we are this year, and especially coming into next year, where we're writing a book where we're really trying to define this category of Indigenous beauty, and that we never just want to be the only brand here, that there's other Indigenous brands, and it's this whole idea of that we truly are the OGs of sustainability, and it's our people around the world that have always been the ones that have been protecting and stewards of the land. And so really, and that's what Indigenous beauty would mean. Like, it's this really internally deep thing, but you can also have fun with it, obviously, by expressing color and color makeup. But it's really about the ingredients and the kind of products we put, and how much work we should be doing as Indigenous people when we make things, to be thinking about protecting Mother Earth, the planet, at the same time. And so that's kind of the book will end with that definition, along with the journey of Cheekbone and how we got to where we are. And so the world knows so many other cultural beauty categories, like, Japanese beauty. It's like that ritualistic skin steps, Korean
Yep.
beauty, all about epic skincare, which the world knows so much about right now, thanks to all the big trends. And like French beauty was like perfume and red lipstick, and Indian beauty was like the Ayurvedic, for them, very connected and holistic beauty practices as well. And I was like, nobody has really put Indigenous beauty on the map. And I feel like Cheekbone has been doing this for this long now. And I feel like we have this definition that of course can grow, but we want it to start somewhere. And I really want the beauty industry to know that Indigenous brands belong here, and we should not be the first brand in the world that Sephora has on a shelf. Like, that just shouldn't exist. And we're only on the shelf here in Canada. And Sephora should have more Indigenous beauty brands in all of the countries that they operate in, which is all of them around the world. That'll be a big part of that. And I feel like Life of a Showgirl relates to that, because it's like all the work that goes into the building up of the expectations of kind of who you are. But I feel like this is our ta-da moment when we complete this project.
I love this so much, and really can't wait for this chapter to be shared with the world. And as a climate, longtime climate justice advocate, activist.
Oh, amazing.
I love that connection from beauty and how things are done in that industry, and of course connecting it back to connection to the planet. So can't wait. Okay, next question. What's one Taylor Swift song that's made you feel seen?
Oh my goodness, that's made me feel seen. Okay, I feel like the song The Man, and I can't remember what album that's on. It's just because when you're a woman in business, like that song, and obviously Father Figure on the new album, is really of like, we've had to behave differently, and it sucks almost like because of being in business. And so I feel like the Man is one song where it like empowers me when I'm in a business setting, that like, it's tough. It's not easy. My daughter's in business school right now, and she had an internship this summer, and she's had a few of like her first time experiences of like, it is tougher for women, right? And it's, as her mom, it's really hard to be like, oh, this is still happening, because now she's 20, so this is 20 years later of me being in the business world, so to speak, and it's still, she's just starting it, and it's still there, and it's a tough journey, so it's not easy. So I think songs like that definitely help me feel seen and empower me to recognize that, one, you're not alone in that. Like, that's, I think, the whole beauty of feeling seen, and a song like that can do that. Like, okay, I know I'm not the only woman that is on this battle of like being up against all of these dudes all the time.
Yeah, 1000%. I had like a surprised, shocked face because Cali, who we interviewed just before this, said the same song.
Oh, no way. I love that. And I love her too. I know exactly who Cali is. Cali Wolf, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
she
awesome.
has similar sentiments, and just back to what you said about like, you need evidence to like come to conclusions about people. I'm like, all the haters, this is your evidence. Like, Taylor Swift is clearly a feminist. Like, she sings these songs that,
and because
really,
let's change that narrative, that because you want to be a mom and get married to a man doesn't mean you're not. Right? Like, it doesn't. If you want to have a family and have that structure of the basketball net on the drive, like, it doesn't mean you're not about supporting women. It just doesn't. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think The Man and Father Figure both really just reveal what we were just talking about, these like double standards that women face more so than men. And, I think she, is able to say that in such a way that makes a lot of women feel empowered and seen. So really love that you both said that song. Okay, two more. If Taylor agreed to do a lie detector test on an interview with you, what would you ask her?
Okay. But lie detectors are interesting because does it have to be a yes or no answer, right?
Oh, you're right. Okay.
So because I have a lot of questions, and I know people have different feelings about this, but like her future husband plays on a team with the name, and like how does she feel about that? That's what I want to know. Like I really want to know
Ooh,
how she feels about the name of his team,
that
right? Yeah.
is very
And she's
juicy.
entitled to her feelings, because as we posted about this during Super Bowl a few years ago, and we got like, even from like our community, many people will, and they're like, I'm Native and I live in this and I love the team name and this is why. And like excellent reasons why. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
valid, valid, valid. So I would just love to know how she feels about that. And has she
Yes.
ever thought about that? Like the naming things and like mascots of like really using Native culture in so many ways in so many different sports. But like, how can we make that so in 2026, it's not making people feel a certain way, right?
Such a good one. I had not even made that connection. Okay, last one. If Taylor ever did a show for Indian country, when and where should she play?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, what is that stadium? And only because I've never been in it and I want to be in it and I heard it's amazing, in Colorado. Isn't it Red Rocks or something? And I just feel
Oh,
like
yes.
it's outside Red
Red
Rocks. It's
Rocks
like on the
Amphitheater.
land, and it's apparently the rocks that give it such the amazing acoustics or whatever. And I feel like that's where she could play for us. Just us too. No one else.
Just us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be so
Well,
good.
Callie said Denver powwow because it's like the
Oh,
largest powwow, but now that gatherings doesn't isn't happening in Albuquerque anymore, but I'm like she could do Denver powwow and then Red Rocks
yeah,
in the
yeah.
night.
Yeah, that would be
I love
amazing.
it. Well, thank you so much, Jen. This has been so fun. And honestly, like we were saying at the very top of the interview, just a nice relief from like the usual intensity that we're surrounded by. This is just a fun conversation to have, and I'm
And
so
yeah,
grateful.
I want to say a deep miigwech because of that. You know, I get
Mm.
asked to do a lot of stuff. So this was super fun and just made my whole entire month.
Yay. Well, I hope we can connect more and I'm going to be like eyes peeled for the 9-year anniversary birthday
Yeah, yeah. Coming up
and
soon.
just can't wait for and just shout out to your line of products that kind of have a really cute life of a showgirl
Yeah.
theme. So
Anything
wanted to make
orange, we
sure.
throw it in
Yes.
there. Yes.
Great. Well, thanks again, Jen. And yeah, I'm so excited to see what y'all do next.
Thank you.